So thank you so much for everyone for coming along on the last evening of our home retreat. My name's Diana, and I've been part of the Social Action Kula along with Angela and Parami here since we set it up a couple of years ago. And so it's my great pleasure to introduce Parami to you, who's the founder of our Social Action Kula. But I think many of you will know her for many years. Ordained in 1980 and just one of those special people for us in the Sangha internationally. So it's just fantastic to have people from Germany, from Amsterdam, from all over with us this evening. So thank you very much. So I think we're in for a treat tonight. For those of you who do know Parami, that social justice and environmental justice very close to her heart. And she's been in this area of her Dharma practice for all of her life, maybe before she even met the Dharma. And some of you might know that she's done a lot of work with Joanna Macy as well. So it's a real gift to have Parami with us in our friend's flat. And I have to say a big shout out to Lou, who has hosted us with our partner Ellis here, because Glasgow Buddhist Centre, we do actually have a wee centre now, a temporary centre, but the internet isn't strong enough for us to zoom out from. So we're here. There's a few of us here from the Social Action Kula, and we're hoping that you'll hear us loud in the mantra later on. So I'll hand over to Parami to get us started. Enjoy.
Okay, thanks Diana for opening us up and introducing. And as always, thank you to Chandradasa and the Buddhist Centre Online. So yeah, this evening is the closing evening for the week-long retreat. And if any of you haven't managed to go to sessions online, I wasn't able to go to all of them, but the ones that I did make were thoroughly enjoyable. Had some really lovely little breakout groups with a few people that I'd never met before, and somebody from Germany, somebody from, I can see her here tonight, hi Lisa, and somebody from San Francisco that I hadn't seen for years. And so it's actually been absolutely delightful. And because it is the last evening, I wanted us to finish on a note of ritual and a note of gratitude in a sense. So thank you Chandradasa for making it clear that it's not exactly a puja. You can tell that Chandradasa and I are extremely good friends, because otherwise he wouldn't be able to tease me quite so much as he does. But I know it's because he loves me, really. So I'll just give you a rundown of how the programme's going to be this evening. And just to say, we won't have a formal break. It'll be about 90 minutes, just under 90 minutes now. So please just do look after yourself. If you need to put your video off, that's fine. Don't everybody put your video off, because it's very weird looking at screens when there's nobody looking back at you. But if you do, or if you need to take a little bio break or something, please just time it for yourself. Look after yourself. So the programme this evening is going to be, we're going to open with a little meditation. I'm going to do a meditation in a minute, just for about 15 minutes to help us arrive. And then I'm going to talk for a bit about the Buddha Ratnasambhava. So I'll say a bit more about him when that comes, and why we thought he was a good figure to evoke for our closing ritual. And then after I've talked for a bit, we're going to do an extract from a puja. It's a puja which was written by Ratnaghosa, who some of you will know. Ratnaghosa's a devotee, to put it like that, of Ratnasambhava. He's been doing that practice for many a long time. And he's written a number of verses and pujas. And I've extracted some verses. And we'll do them in call and response. So there's 6 of us here in the room. So we'll do it in call and response. The rest of you will be muted, so please do join in. At the end of those verses, we're going to chant the mantra, Ratnasambhava's mantra, which Diana will begin. And during that, I'd like to invite everybody, if you can, to light a candle. And I'll say a little bit just before the mantra as to why the importance of that as symbolism, really. And then after the mantra and the opportunity to light a candle, we're going to finish with a Chinook blessing litany, which I really like, and I'll say more about it before we do it. And we're going to do that. The people here in the room are going to read that verse by verse. And there's a little refrain that everybody can join in, and I'll tell you about that when we get there. Okay? So if you'd like to make yourself comfortable for about 15 minutes, just maybe 20 minutes max, we're going to just do a little meditation. Actually, just before we do that, I do really want to thank all the people that have put this retreat together. I'm going to do it now rather than at the end, because sometimes at the end, after a ritual, you don't really want to hear a load of kind of verbal stuff. So, yeah, just to say that I think the team from the Triratna Sangha, and there's some of you on the call, there's Shanti Gaba, Angela's here in our room, Diana's here in the room. I don't know if Shanta's Chitta's on tonight. I don't see her. But anyway, loads of people have contributed and done an awful lot to bring this together. But this is only the first, hopefully, of many. Hopefully, as time goes on, this can become a regular thing, a yearly thing perhaps, where when we come to Earth Day, that this can, Apeksha Priya, thank you. Yeah, don't see Apeksha Priya. Oh, there you are. That this can become something that our Sangha can really try to bring into consciousness more. The Earth Day is such an important part of the year for so many people. And I think it will grow as time goes on. So thank you to the team that have organised this and all the work that's gone into it. And as ever, and I have said this, but the Buddhist Centre Online is amazing. It is a totally awesome part of Triratna. Anyway, I could wax lyrical about the Buddhist Centre for a long time. I won't, but please, please do know just how extraordinary and amazing it is. If we had time, I could tell you all sorts of things about the Buddhist Centre Online, but we don't. That's for another day. Okay, so if you want to just make yourself comfortable now, well, I won't actually, because I'm going to lead us through the meditation. Some people don't like being led through meditation, so I suggest that you don't think of it as a meditation, that you just think of it as a kind of reflection, and then you won't get too irritated. And if you do, you can work with your mental states. It's good for that. Okay, so just take a minute or so to just come into relationship with yourself. Just how are you just now? What are you bringing into this little practice? And the breath is a really good way to help you just settle in. So just try and be as present as possible. Nothing to push away, nothing to cling to. Just this moment, this practice. Their reflection on the elements. So beginning with a reflection on the element earth, the earth which sustains us. Remember all the ways the element earth in trees, bushes, mountains, tiny wee stones. The element earth, seemingly substantial, seemingly solid. We can reflect how this element of earth nourishes and sustains us. What grows in the earth. We eat from the earth. We walk on the earth. And we can reflect that this element earth is found within us as well as outside of us. The seeming solidity of flesh, bones, teeth, hair. Feel that sense of seeming solidity that we think of as me and mine. And yet, this element of earth does not belong to me. It's borrowed, it's shared. We can reflect that this element of earth is shared with all beings. All beings borrow this element of earth. It's not me, it's not mine. It's shared. Open our heart in solidarity to all beings made of this element earth, sharing this element earth, known by this element earth. And the element water. All around us, the element water, from the tiniest raindrop to the vast oceans that cover our planet, all made water. Remember the sensation of water in your face, of swimming, moving through water, fluidity. And this element water is within us, in saliva, mucus, all the bodily fluids, the blood pulsing through our body. Tears, sweat, we reflect, this element water is not me, it's not mine, it's borrowed, it's shared with all beings. We open our hearts to all beings nourished by the element water, shared by all, sustaining life. And the element fire, the heat of the sun, the warmth of the planet, all the processes of combustion, energy, fire in the hearth, volcanoes, the heat of the sun. And this element fire is within me, my bodily temperature, processes of digestion, transformation, heat. This element of fire, it's not me, it's not mine, does not belong to me. It's shared. Reflecting on this, we open our hearts in solidarity with all beings. Bring the element of fire. And the element of air, air all around us, unseen yet felt, seen in the movement of leaves on the trees, felt the force of a strong wind or a subtle breeze. And this element of air is within me. Every in-breath, filling my lungs, carrying oxygen, bringing life. From the first gulp of air at birth to the last exhalation, we borrow this element air. Not me, it's not mine, it's borrowed, it's shared. And these elements of earth, water, fire and air together occupy a space I think of as me, as and yet this space is not me, it's not mine, it's shared. We reflect the rising and the passing of life. Elements come together. And in time need to be let go of. A dance, a web, arising and shared by all beings. May all beings find happiness and its causes. May all beings respect these elements. And may we live in harmony with all the beings we share these elements with. All beings on this earth, our planet, treading lightly, sharing. As we bring this practice to a close, feeling within our hearts a strong sense of solidarity, a strong respect and love for all beings, a strong desire to share this earth, to cause no harm. And we might just silently make some dedication that the merit of this practice serve towards peace in our world, towards respect, compassion, that all beings may find true happiness. So thank you, everybody, for joining in that practice. So when our social action cooler agreed to do this evening, I think it was Angela who suggested that Ratnasambhava might be an appropriate figure. Is that right? Was it you, Angela? I think it was, yeah. And as soon as Angela said that, I thought, yeah, absolutely, Ratnasambhava is definitely the figure, a really good figure to evoke to come to the end of this retreat. And I wanted to begin by doing that practice, really just to kind of put us in touch, not only with the earth, as it's Earth Day, not only with the elements, but with our shared experience of those elements. That for me was more what I really wanted to kind of evoke with that. That wherever we are and whatever conditions we're living within, that the planet, the earth, the elements are crucial to our living and to our well-being. So I really, as this last kind of closing ritual, I wanted to really bring that out and bring out that there's been quite a strong strain around gratitude through the week as the week's going on. And it felt important to finish this retreat by really getting in touch with a sense of gratitude. And Ratnasambhava is an ideal figure to try and contact for gratitude. So I'm assuming that probably most of you will know quite a lot about Ratnasambhava. Apologies if I'm repeating basic stuff, but sometimes it's just good to do that. So Ratnasambhava is one of the five, what's known as the five jina. And each of those Buddhas occupies a part of the day and occupies a place in the five Buddha. And Ratnasambhava is the Buddha of the South. And he's the Buddha that's in touch with the middle of the day. So it's sunshine at its most wonderful. Now, for those of us in the Northern Hemisphere, and particularly in places like Britain, we don't get an awful lot of that, but we do get, and probably all of us have had some experience of what it's like to be somewhere where it isn't just a little glimmer of sunshine, but the sun actually heats you up. You might remember that. You actually get a sense of warmth from being in the sun. And Ratnasambhava is that multiplied. So he absolutely exudes warmth. And warmth seems really important. Just to be able to be in that noonday sun and to really feel the abundance of Ratnasambhava, because he represents abundance. And that seemed important. I think it's very easy when we consider the climate crisis, which I know all of us that I can see, and everybody here in the room is very aware of the climate crisis. It's very easy to sometimes feel a bit overwhelmed and just to feel a bit, well, it's a good thing sometimes, because I think it brings home the nature and the scale of the issue. It's important to be able to touch into that. And I think it's important to touch into grief and to recognise that there is grief. All of us feel that grief for the loss of so many things, the loss of species, so many things. But it's also important that we come to that with full heart if we can, and that we look after ourselves so that we're able to be in touch with that abundance, because it's from that sense of abundance that we can share and that we can actually be in relationship with each other. And the earth is extraordinarily abundant. It's wonderful at the moment. I was this morning I was down visiting Sarna Jaya, who I can see on the screen. We were down at her house for our order meeting this morning. And there's a beautiful cherry blossom in the front garden. Oh my goodness. It's like it assaults you almost. The pinkness assaults you. And it's so wonderful, and I think it's so important that we remember that there's that beauty in the world. That's why we feel the grief. That's why we feel in touch with that sense of the importance of acting now in whatever way we can to honour that beauty and that abundance. So Ratnasambhava is all of those things. He's the noonday sun, he's abundance. But of course, each of those Buddhas also has a poison that they're associated with. I mean, they don't have a poison, but they're associated with a poison that they transform. And the poison that Ratnasambhava transforms is pride. And again, that just seems so relevant for those of us thinking about how to work in this world at this time. So much is caused by pride. And by pride going right, it's not just the pride of I'm better than, it's also just the whole thing of I'm separate from. That is the fundamental problem of pride. That sense that I exist as a separate entity, separate from each of you, separate from the people in this room, even separate from the planet, separate from the trees. We do not exist separately. We all arise in different conditions, and as those conditions change, we too will change. And those conditions are, it's the recognising of the temporary nature of those conditions and the recognising of the interconnectedness that we have with all beings that breaks through pride. So Ratnasambhava, with the heat of the sun, allows us to melt away those false senses of separateness. That's a very weird metaphor. It just came into my mind and it doesn't quite work. But you know what I mean? You know, there's a sense sometimes, I think, of coldness and separation. I feel sometimes if I'm feeling, for whatever reason, I've separated or isolated myself a bit, it's a cold and dark place to be in. And the sunshine that comes from Ratnasambhava allows us to break that pride and to connect to each other. So that just seems very relevant. And his wisdom is the wisdom of equality. And what I take that to mean in this context is very much what I was trying to do with that little short meditation session, of really just recognising that we all arise from the same conditions. Socially, we might have very different conditions, that's true, etc., but we, all of us, come from the earth, are nourished by the earth, nourished by the elements. And we are, each of us is a cause for an effect in everybody else's life, if that makes sense. You know, we're all kind of so interconnected. So that wisdom of equality is saying that every single being on this earth, from the, sounds a bit cliched, but from the teeniest wee blade of grass, right through to the universe. I've lost track of what I was going to say there because I'm getting messages popping up in front of me. That they are all equal in their sense of valid, that all beings are worthy of our respect, our love, our metta, our care, and our compassion. So that wisdom of equality seems a very, very important aspect of Ratnasambhava. And lastly, I wanted to say, in terms of the Brahma Viharas, those positive mental states, Ratnasambhava is sometimes associated with equanimity. And I think equanimity is a great prize for anybody trying to be in any way active in a social sense in the world, because we are swayed so much by the worldly winds. And if we open ourselves up, as we do, to know what's happening in the world around us, if we really take in what's happening in the climate, what's happening in wars, what's happening in poverty, refugees, etc., if we really open our hearts to that, it's very easy to feel overwhelmed. So that equanimity that Ratnasambhava can offer us is just so important. And he touches the earth. So there's Ratnasambhava, touching the earth. But he touches the earth in a very particular way. You'll see that he touches the earth with the palm of his hand outwards. So he's giving, he's generous, he's generosity. So he touches the earth and he takes strength from the earth, but he doesn't hold on to it. It's an open palm giving out into the world. And the emblem that he has in his other hand is a jewel, a mani. And that jewel is the jewel that every single one of us has within us. A jewel that's our most important self, as it were. I know there isn't a self, so take this as a metaphor. Our self in the sense of our deepest values and our deepest inclinations. And that jewel becomes shiny, more shiny, as it's polished with equanimity and with love. And you see, I like this image when I found it because it's so abundant. You've got all those flowers, you've got blossom, and you have a lotus that he sits on. So that's the image that I wanted to share of Ratnasambhava. So that was really all I wanted to say. If anybody wants to add anything about Ratnasambhava or share anything.
Yeah, I'd love to share with you that some of you will probably know, but I only heard this very recently. And I guess so vertical, he's got it so stretched out and the fingers so far back that just nothing can be held in the palm, and nothing can be contained, nothing can be grasped, and I just find that so beautiful.
Thank you, that's lovely. Okay, I'm going to suggest that we move on to do the extract from the puja, which we're going to do in call and response. So just make yourself comfortable for this. Actually, we're doing quite well with time, so I'm going to suggest that we do actually just have about 5 minutes of just switching off your video, moving away from the screen, and then we'll move into the next stage. So 5 minutes. As well.
You mean unmute?
So I make that 5 minutes, so we'll start again. Everybody's back. Okay, I'm going to begin. I think there might be still some people coming back. So we're going to do these verses in call and response. So fortunately there are some people here that can do the response, and everybody else should be muted. So you can join in and do it as loudly or as quietly as you'd like at home. Om Ratnasambhavatrang.
Om Ratnasambhavatrang.
Buddha of beauty.
Buddha of beauty.
In the glorious southern realm.
In the southern realm.
May you fill my heart.
May you fill my heart
With the spirit of generosity.
with the spirit of generosity
And the light of wisdom.
and the light of wisdom.
May the wisdom of equality.
May the wisdom of equality
Pervade my being.
pervade my being
Like a beautiful fragrance.
like a beautiful fragrance.
May I have the strength and conviction.
May I have the strength and conviction
To always be kind and loving.
to always be kind and loving.
May I be free.
May I be free
From fear and hatred.
from fear and hatred.
May I radiate the light of compassion.
May I radiate the light of compassion
Which enters my heart.
which enters my heart
Through your great beauty.
through your great beauty.
May all those I meet.
May all those I meet
On my path through life.
on my path through life
Benefit from their contact with me.
benefit from their contact with me.
May no one suffer through cruelty.
May no one suffer through cruelty
From his or her fellow humans.
from his or her fellow humans.
May all that oppress us.
May all that oppress us
And bring fear to our hearts.
and bring fear to our hearts.
May that be dissolved in the power of your compassion.
May that be dissolved in the power of your compassion.
May we love each other
May we love each other
with great passion.
with great passion.
May we protect each other
May we protect each other
as parents protect their children.
as parents protect their children.
May our prayers for peace
May our prayers for peace
be rewarded with a change of heart
be rewarded with a change of heart
from all those who purvey war and violence.
from all those who purvey war and violence.
May all living creatures
May all living creatures
live out their lives in peace.
live out their lives in peace.
May all who practice Dharma be successful.
May all who practice Dharma be successful.
May the veils of ignorance,
May the veils of ignorance
which cloud our vision,
which cloud our vision
slowly drop away.
slowly drop away.
May our hearts be open.
May our hearts be open.
May our minds be open.
May our minds be open.
May our arms be open.
May our arms be open.
May love radiate from us
May love radiate from us
like the rays of the midday sun,
like the rays of the midday sun,
bringing warmth and light
bringing warmth and light
into every cold, dark corner.
into every cold, dark corner.
And may it lighten the burden
And may it lighten the burden
of our fellow creatures.
of our fellow creatures.
May all our finest dreams come true.
May all our finest dreams come true.
May our enemies become our friends.
May our enemies become our friends.
May all boundaries and divisions collapse
May all boundaries and divisions collapse
in the face of the wisdom of equality
in the face of the wisdom of equality
and the unutterable passion of Ratnasambhava.
and the unutterable passion of Ratnasambhava.
So we'll have the Ratnasambhava mantra, and while we're chanting that mantra, I'd invite those of you at home to also light a candle if you have one handy. And as we light a candle, just really allowing that sense of light coming into the darkness. That line I thought was very evocative of may the rays of the sun bring warmth and light into every cold and dark corner. So as we light the candles, really allowing for that sense of the love that comes from us and our shared experience here together this evening to radiate as love out into the world. So I'll hand over to Diana to start the mantra.
Om Ratna Sambhavatrang. Om Ratna Sambhavatrang. Om Sambhavatrang. Om Ratna 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 Sambhavatrang. Ratna Sambhavatrang. Ratna Sambhavatrang. Ratna Sambhavatrang. Ratna Sambhavatrang. Ratna Sambhavatrang. Ratna Sambhavatrang.
Sambhava
Ratna Sambhava Om 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 Ratna Om Ratna Sambhava
Om Ratna Sambhava
Om Ratna Sambhava
Sambhava
Om Ratna Sambhava
Om Ratna Sambhava
Om Ratna Sambhava Om Ratna Sambhava
Om Ratna Sambhava
Om Ratna Sambhava
Om Ratna Sambhava
Om Ratna Sambhava
Om Ratna Sambhava
Om Ratna Sambhava
Om Ratna Sambhava Om Ratna Sambhava
Om Ratna Sambhava
Om Ratna Sambhava Om Ratna Sambhava
Om Ratna Sambhava
Om Ratna Sambhava Om Ratna Sambhava
Om Ratna Sambhava
Om Ratna Sambhava
Sambhava
Om Ratna Sambhava
Sambhava
Om Ratna Sambhava Om Ratna Sambhava Om Ratna Sambhava Om Ratna Sambhava Om Ratna Sambhava Om Ratna Sambhava Om Ratna Sambhava Om Ratna Sambhava Om Ratna Sambhava Om Ratna Sambhava Om Ratna Sambhava Om Ratna Sambhava
Now let's just sit and allow that mantra to continue to resound within our hearts. A sense of sitting on the earth, being nourished by the earth, and just sitting together. And we'll sit for about 10 minutes together. Okay, so we're going to conclude the evening with a reading, and it's a reading of a Chinook Blessings Litany, and it's going to be collectively read here in the room. And there's, at the end of each verse, there's a line which we'll say together, which is teach us and show the way. So please join in with that if you would like to. And it felt to me like quite a fitting reading to end not only this closing evening, but to end the retreat with. And it's keeping that theme of the elements. So I'm just hoping that you'll be able to hear each person as they read it. So maybe when you read your verse, even like maybe move over a bit closer to the mic so you hear it. And there's, I think, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 verses. So I won't read. So just, read them between you, and then we'll finish. So, and at the end of that, I will say thank you, but if you'd like to just leave at the end of that as a way of holding the ritual, then just slip off. And if you'd like to stay and unmute at the end to say cheerio, that's also absolutely okay. So,
we call upon the earth, our planet home, with its beautiful depths and soaring heights, its vitality and abundance of life. And together we ask that it
Teach us and show us the way.
We call upon the mountains, the Cascades and the Olympics, the high green valleys and the meadows filled with wild flowers, the snows that never melt, the summits of intense silence, and we ask that they
Teach us and show us the way.
We call upon the waters that rim the earth, horizon to horizon, that flow in our rivers and streams, that fall upon our gardens and fields, and we ask that they teach us and show us the way.
We call upon the land which grows our food, the nurturing soil, the fertile fields, the abundant gardens and orchards, and we ask that they teach us
and show us the way.
We call upon the forest, the great trees reaching strongly to the sky, with earth in their roots and the heavens in their branches, the fir and the pine and the cedar, and we ask them to teach us and show us the way.
We call upon the creatures of the fields and the forest and the seas, our brothers and sisters, the wolves and deer, the eagle and dove, the great whales and the dolphin, the beautiful orca and salmon who share our northwest home. And we ask them to
teach us and show us the way.
We call upon all those who have lived on this earth, our ancestors and our friends, who dreamed the best for future generations, and upon whose lives our lives are built. And with thanksgiving, we call upon them to
teach us and show us the way.
And lastly, we call upon all that we hold most sacred, the presence and power of the great Spirit of love and truth, which flows through all the universe, to be with us, to
teach us and show us the way.
So I call upon all of us, every single one of us here, to teach each other and to walk the path of love, the path of Ratnasambhava, path of equality, to share with each other and to share with every being that comes into our orbit, that their lives may be touched by our lives. Thank you so much for coming along this evening. Thank you for joining in this retreat. And as you were told at the beginning, everything's still available, so anything you've missed you can get on that wonderful organ, the Buddhist Centre online. So thank you so much, and please feel free to just leave or to unmute and say cheerio.